After spending a couple months with the Sennheiser MKE-400, there's about 6 features that I think makes this microphone stand out from any of the other microphones at this price point. And the first feature that really stands out about this microphone is the internalized shock mount. Now, a traditional shotgun microphone will have a Ryco mount or some sort of mount which has sort of a big wide Y coming together with a little rubber grip or sometimes 2 little rubber grippy bits that actually hold the long tubular microphone on top of the camera. What this means is with your microphone while you're using it, it is sort of bouncing and wibbling and wobbling around on top of the camera, something that is a little bit annoying. The other thing it means is that even though the microphone is quite thin itself, the whole package becomes quite a bit bigger once you add that shock mount design in. So it is sort of a bigger and more obvious form factor than what we've got here with the little Sennheiser MKE-400. In addition to this sort of space saving comes into play when you're either putting it in your pocket or you're sticking it in a camera bag. With a traditional microphone with a relatively big Ryco mount, you really have to be careful because the Ryco mounts or the shock mounts on those traditional shotgun microphones can be sort of fragile. They can get bent out of shape quite easily or damaged. I have broken them before in my camera bag, where this is just one solid piece. So if you have enough room to just fit this small little shape in your camera bag, you can stick it in your camera bag. If you want to stick this microphone in your pocket, you can stick this microphone in your pocket. This is something you cannot do with the traditional shotgun microphone. I also like the fact that when I put it on top of the camera, it is a rigid design. It isn't flopping all around. And I suppose I have gotten used to these sort of Ryco mounts and traditional shock mounts on top of the camera where you're moving the camera around, but the microphone is sort of bouncing around. But once you get the MKE-400 on top of the camera, and it just feels like it's part of the camera, like it's built into the camera, you realize kind of how distracting and annoying it is having this microphone sort of wobbling around on top of the camera. The other thing I will say about this shock mount system, unlike the little brother to the MKE-400, the MKE-200 does suffer a little bit from handling noise. When you're handling the camera, if you are rough enough with it, that will come through and you will hear it on the microphone with the MKE-200. But the MKE-400 is a significant step up from that, and I would say the ability for this microphone to handle handling noise or reduce handling noise with the shock mount system that is internal is just as good as a Ryco mount or some of the wibbly wobbly systems that we're traditionally used to on an on-camera shotgun microphone. The other thing that's different about the MKE-400 versus other traditional shotgun microphones is that it has the first level of wind protection built into the microphone. And this microphone is designed very much like a traditional blimp, a microphone blimp. And what this is this is a housing that goes around a traditional shotgun microphone. And on the outside, there's a bit of foam and fabric, and it's like usually a plastic cage. And then the next level of wind protection on that setup is they put a furry wind muff across the whole thing. The Sennheiser MKE-400 essentially has that initial level of wind protection built in, so you always have sort of level 1 wind protection with this microphone, even when you don't put the sort of fuzzy cover on it. Now, with a traditional shotgun microphone, you've got the interference tube here, and because of the way a traditional shotgun microphone is designed, any little bit of wind blowing across this thing can make the audio completely unusable. So using a microphone like this without a wind muff on it, with even the lightest of winds, is just not a possibility. The Sennheiser MKE-400, light winds or indoors, or even when you're outside with a little bit of wind, the microphone as it is without the furry windscreen will handle that no problem. Now, this microphone takes a battery to operate, and that operates some of its smart features. It allows it to have an amplifier built into it so it can send a stronger signal out of the microphone into the camera, thereby causing your camera to have to work less hard and not crank up the amplifiers in your camera. Most DSLR and mirrorless cameras traditionally don't have the best preamps, and often if you've recorded some video and you get some sort of hissing, some background hissing noise, that relates to the preamps in your camera not being as good as you might really want them to be. But Sennheiser has designed this microphone with high quality preamps that are driven by 2 AAA batteries. And batteries in microphones is always something that scared me because I always have this paranoia of the batteries not being charged or the batteries dying and then I lose my audio completely. And Sennheiser has dealt with that by giving this microphone over 100 hours of battery life on 2 traditional AAA batteries. In addition to that, once you are to the point where you only have about 3 hours of battery life left with the batteries that are in the microphone at the time, there is a red light that lights up on the side of the microphone, giving you effectively a 3-hour warning that we've got 3 hours left to change over the batteries, which I think is great. It is a very bright light and you really can't miss it. So I like the idea of having that big warning up front and that big buffer of 3 hours. I also love the idea of getting over 100 hours of battery life from the microphone. The other thing that I was always worried about with these battery operated microphones was forgetting to turn the power on when I started shooting video footage and forgetting to turn it off after I ended the video footage. And in effect, if you have a battery operated microphone plugged into your camera and you do not turn the power on, then you get this situation where it's like just having a dead wire into the camera. So when you shoot your video, you've got no audio whatsoever. You will have a complete blank audio track. And if you forget to turn the microphone off when you're done, you end up with this situation where the battery drains down and the next time you go to turn it on, it has been on all day and now you don't have any battery. And once again, you cannot get an audio track out of the microphone because the batteries are dead. But they have created an auto on-off feature, which does not appear to drain any of the battery while it is in sort of standby or waiting or off mode. So when you plug this thing into your camera, you don't have to turn anything on or off. You simply turn the camera on, and when you turn it on and go to record, the microphone automatically comes on, and you will know that it's on because it illuminates a little green light on the side of the microphone. This is the same light that also turns red when you're down to 3 hours left. Then when you turn the microphone off, it automatically turns off. So when we talk about 100 hours of battery life, we are truly talking about 100 hours of recording footage. Now, if you can imagine how much footage 100 hours of footage is, it is absolutely immense. So this microphone with its auto on-off feature and its 100+ hour battery life is going to last you a very, very long time. Probably the most important thing is you don't forget that at some point that red light's going to come on and you're going to have to change the batteries. But I imagine for me, 100 hours of video footage is probably going to take me months to go through the set of batteries that just came with the microphone. And the other key feature that is really, really good about this microphone is it has a headphone jack. And a lot of mirrorless cameras nowadays, certainly a lot of the more budget-oriented ones, do not have a headphone jack in the camera. This means that you have no ability to monitor your audio and know if you're getting sort of background noise, wind noise, electrical interference, or if it's too loud. By having a headphone jack in the side of the microphone, it allows you to monitor at least what is going into the camera. Now, a caveat to this is not as good as being able to monitor exactly what the camera is recording, because you will have to check your audio levels on the camera and make sure you're setting those right. So even though the microphone is sending a good clean signal into the camera, you do have to sort of check those levels and make sure that the camera is dealing with them right. So not quite as good as monitoring the audio out of the camera, but still, if you do not have a headphone jack in the side of your camera, this is a real game changer and can really save you from a whole bunch of problems down the track where you've shot video, had problems with your audio, wind noise, electrical interference, something else, and didn't pick it up until the project was all done, and then you've wasted all that time and footage. Now, this stuff only matters if the microphone also sounds great. And spoiler alert, it sounds great. And I'm going to give you some audio samples so you can determine for yourself and compare it to a few different microphones at a few different price points. First, we'll test it in this sort of studio office environment I've got here with this small, somewhat reverberant room. And then we'll take it outside and we'll test it sort of in a real world outdoor vlogging type environment. Now you're listening to the MKE-400. I have boomed it just overhead. We are not using the low cut filter and we are set on the medium standard gain setting into the camera because I found that works best with the camera that I'm using. The other thing that I should mention that is a very clever design as part of the MKE-400 is it actually has the cord coming out the front of the microphone, unlike coming out the back of the microphone, which traditional microphones have. This means that if you sort of want to use the electronic viewfinder or the viewfinder in your camera, you don't have an annoying cord coming out the back of the, just above the hot shoe mount and either sort of hitting you in the head or drooping down in front of the eyepiece or the electronic viewfinder. So that is a really clever design, and this is the first microphone that I've seen that actually has the port coming out the front. Now you're listening to the Rode VideoMicro. Certainly this is one of the most popular shotgun microphones, or at least mini shotgun microphones of all time. I would suspect this is one of the best-selling shotgun microphones of the past decade, and for its size and price point, it sounds excellent. So this is a really good one. I like to compare this to just about every microphone that I review. So right now you're hearing the Rode VideoMicro. Now we're back on the MKE-400. This is how it sounds, just giving you a sort of an audio baseline to compare to the microphones either side of it. Now you're listening to the MKE-400. All right, now you're listening to the Sennheiser MKE-200. I think this is a great little microphone for $99. It handles wind noise, I would say, as well as the MKE-400, but doesn't have all the smart features, doesn't have the headphone jack, doesn't have the low cut, high cut filter, and it does not have the gain control. But it doesn't have batteries either, so that's one less thing to worry about with this little microphone. But I don't think you get quite the sound out of it either. It is half the price. It is still a very, very good microphone depending on your budget. And if you want the microphone to be very small, this is the smallest microphone in this comparison, and it's still a pretty good one. Now we're back on the MKE-400. This is how it sounds. Just once again, just giving you an audio baseline to help you compare this to the other microphones in this roundup. Here you go. You're listening to the MKE-400. Now you're listening to the Deity V-4 Mini, and once again, this is an excellent budget option at $49.95, and it has a little bit of innovation. It has the sort of the microphone plug coming out the side, similar to what the Sennheiser has it coming out the front. The Deity has it coming out the side to sort of help you with that same issue of the cord getting in front of your eye when you're using the viewfinder. It also has a separate input port, so there's a little bit of versatility with this $49.95 microphone, and I do really like the sounds of it as well. Surprise, surprise, we're back on the MKE-400 again. This is how it sounds. Once again, just giving you another audio sample to compare to the microphones around it. Right now, you're listening to the MKE-400. Now you're listening to the Zoom F1 SP, which is an audio recorder and shotgun microphone all in one package. Gives you a lot of versatility. You can also use it with a lapel and make it sort of an on-body pack recorder, or you can put in any of their different microphone capsules. This kit happens to come with the shotgun microphone, and it's only $29 more than the MKE-400. So, and it does have some pretty decent audio quality. It is a much, much bigger package when you put it on top of the camera, and I do find it almost completely unwieldy on top of a small mirrorless camera. But it is one to consider because the price point is so similar. I also think it sounds pretty good overall. Now we're back in the MKE-400 and we finished up our samples indoors. Now let's get outside in the natural environment with some sort of cars and birds and a little bit of wind around and just see how these microphones compare in a more real world outdoor environment. All right, this is gonna be an off-axis rejection test. Right now we're on the MKE-400 and I have a waterfall just at sort of a 90-degree angle off access to my right here. So we're going to listen to how my voice sounds compared to the sound of that waterfall and how clear and detailed my voice is compared to how strong the noise of the waterfall is through all of these different microphones. Now you're listening to the MKE-200. Even though this is a directional microphone, it is not a shotgun microphone. And the shotgun microphones do the best job of isolating against the noises coming from the sides, so I suspect this will do the worst job in the lineup of isolating from background noises. Right now you're listening to the MKE-200. We're back on the MKE-400, once again just giving you an audio sample as we go through these microphones. Listen to the sound of my voice and compare that to how strong the sound of the waterfall is. Now you're listening to the Deity D4 Mini, and I love this little microphone. I don't think it does quite as good a job of blocking the reflections off the walls in my little studio, but I always like the sounds of it when I get it outside, and I do use it in the studio as well. Right now you're listening to the sound of the Deity D4 Mini. Now we're back on the MKE-400, and once again we're listening to the sound of my voice and how strong does that signal or does that sound come through compared to the sound of the waterfall. Right now you're listening to the Rode VideoMicro, possibly the most popular mini shotgun microphone of all time. I actually think as a mini shotgun microphone, this one generally does a pretty good job of rejecting the noise from the sides and the background noise. So I'll be interested to hear how this sounds when I get it back into the studio. Surprise, surprise, back on the MKE-400 again. Listen to the sound of my voice. How does that sound compared to the sound of the waterfall? Once again, we're back on the MKE-400. Right now you're listening to the Zoom F1 SP. This is a little bit of a different form factor. It is a shotgun microphone and audio recorder all in one. It is quite big, which makes it a bit unwieldy on a small mirrorless camera, but it is only $30 more than the MKE-400, so I thought thought it would be worth comparing. Here we are once again on the MKE-400, just giving you an audio sample to cleanse your audio palette. This is the sound of the MKE-400. Now I've just engaged the low cut filter on the MKE-400, and this is designed to cut out sort of low-level rumbling and traffic noises, and it'll be interesting to see if it actually eliminates some of that waterfall noise. Now this is something you can do when you get it into your computer and editing. You don't actually have to use this filter on the microphone, but for a lot of people that aren't wanting to edit their audio at all, they just want to actually shoot their shot and then publish it and upload, the low cut filter can be used to eliminate some unwanted low level noise. So I'll be interested to see how this does at eliminating the sound of that waterfall. This is also a good one if you've got a little bit of wind noise, because wind noise tends to be sort of a low-level rumble as well. And regardless of which microphone you thought sounded best, I think it would be very hard not to say that this Sennheiser MKE-400 isn't a very, very good sounding microphone, loaded with an incredible amount of features that almost no other microphone on the market currently offers. And really the only negative that I might be able to draw about the Sennheiser MKE-400 is at its price point, the comparable shotgun microphones out there are longer, which means that they have longer interference tubes, which means that they are more directional. This means that they will reject sounds from the side better, picking up only the sounds from the front. And this is just a law of physics. The shorter the interference tube, which is the tube that comes out of the shotgun microphone, the shorter that is, the less directional the microphone will be. So obviously these very short microphones are less directional, they pick up more from the side, and as you get bigger, you sort of get more directional and they do a better job of rejecting the noise from the side. But if you're just looking for really top quality audio and you want something that's a little bit smaller, that just sort of fits in with your camera, is a little bit less conspicuous, can fit anywhere in your camera bag, you don't have to worry about damaging the shock mount, I think this is a very, very compelling option. And if you're still not sure which microphone is for you, I have put a playlist on screen now, and that will take you through to a whole bunch of different microphone reviews and comparisons. And I think if you have a look at that playlist, it will help you determine which is the best on-camera microphone for you.